Hello. Working on the bracelet and finishing off the final details. So, some of the essential things that need to be done is the very far back left and right of the strands that came from the pendant. So if you look on the back here, the very far back left and right need to be secured onto the bracelet. So if you look on the back here, I have done one side. It's not quite finished, but it is wrapped around the bracelet. So you can see it from the front here. I just took one of the half round pieces and continued wrapping around. And then when it was up, I wrapped it around the bracelet. So when it wrapped around the bracelet, it's important to go at least twice around, because if you just hook it around to the back, this could potentially catch on something or come undone. And I like to make sharp angles when finishing off the details. So that way, when it's a sharp angle, you're more likely to be able to line up the wires so that they rest right next to each other. Sorry, it's a little blurry, but the best way to get them to sit right next to each other is to make sure that they're straight. No rounding at all or anything, just straight up and down. And then when you're finished that, always finish on the underside. So just factor in how much space it would take to wrap around the side, and then wrap it around to the back, tuck it in so that it finishes about halfway down the back, approximately. And then again, the reason for that would be to avoid scratching or grabbing onto anything. When you're done your whole project, something to consider is running your finger along the back and seeing if you find any sharp edges anywhere on your bracelet. If you do find that, you can just use a diamond file, something like this, and just gently massage out those little kinks. You can also use some really fine sandpaper, or sometimes even just a nail file will do the trick. Okay, so I have the one side completely secure now, and now the opposite side, which is the left, if I'm looking at it from my point of view. So I did the right, and now I'm going to do the left. The left needs to secure onto the bracelet as well. So I'll just quickly get that secured. Wrap around. Voila. So now it's not going to come off. I'll do the same thing on the other side, but I'll do that later. I just want to show you a few techniques that add some really cool little waves to your piece. So you can take some extra leftover half round pieces of wire and start wrapping on one of them outwards. So you see how I did this wave here, right here? You can do one that's longer and actually wrap it around the stone, to the side of the stone, or even just making a little loop that goes underneath, and then you can tuck it in, finish it off on this part of the bracelet. You can also take a pin vise right here. Always use the side that's the thinnest, that looks just like an X. So the other side right here, if you look at it, it has a bit of a circle in the middle. That's not the one that you want, because that's not going to hold onto your wire. So I'm just going to do that on one of the top pieces here. So I just place it in the pin vise about 1/4 inch, And then I kind of pull the pendant away at the same time I'm pulling the pin vise away once it's screwed in there, so that when you twist, you're going to get even twists. Now you can see there's a little bit of a buildup more closer towards the pin vise. Sometimes this can be simply because you have to loosen the grip of your pin vise. Did you see how that was? It kind of unwinded in the opposite way that I am twisting. And the reason is I guess the pin vise builds up the tension from twisting, and you just have to let that go and then continue twisting again. So once you get to that point, you can just cut off your extras that aren't twisted. You can either use the tip of your chain nose, or you can grab a round nose plier. Move these wires out of the way. So I'm going to grab the tip right here and make a really gentle small hook. See, like that? And then I'm going to squish that hook so that it's completely tight. Now, from here, I'm just going to grab a hold of it underneath the chain nose pliers with my thumb nose. My thumb nose. Yes, this is my tool. It's called my thumb nose. I'm going to put that right on the pin vise right here. Not on the pin vise, sorry. On the pin vise twisted wire. And I'm going to start turning the pliers towards my thumb. And that's going to start making a bit of a curve on it. And then you just let go of the pliers and make that turn again. So it starts to curl in. Grab it, twirl in. Grab it, twirl in. So you want to make sure when you grab your swirl that you're grabbing on the edge so you still see the opening in your swirl where it's about to start, or I guess you could say where it finishes. So when you grab, you want to have that part exposed so that when you turn it in, it has room to turn in. And that will create a little bit like a cinnamon roll. So I'm going to bring it all the way in. And I think it's important for this to sit off to the side, because otherwise you're running into the issue of it catching or snagging on things. This is a great way to hide extra wires. So what I'm going to do is I got it swirled all the way in here. Sorry, I'm having a difficult time trying to find the right angle. See all these extra wires? I don't want to make any fireworks on my piece. I call the busy pendants like fireworks. I'm just going to cut them off so that they are just a little bit longer than the length between that half round piece that connects these two to the pendant. So that way when I bring it close to the pendant and I curl it inwards, it makes it round. Just looks a lot more smooth, like it's meant to be. Kind of see that there? So now I'm going to take that cinnamon swirl and I'm going to place it to the side right on top of those wires. So it's on a bit of an angle. You can tuck it in even more by either using your fingers or grab the pliers and kind of bend the swirl inwards. Yeah. So with the rest of them, I'm probably going to bring a few around to this side that follow the anchor piece, like so. So when you bring them around to the back, the same thing, one at a time, you'll wrap them to attach onto the bracelet. Another option is if you take a look at when I flip it around, I have this one piece of wire that's kind of hanging out here that I could actually attach these onto. So I show you how I do that. Just cut it a little bit longer than that wire that I'm going to wrap it around. And then I'm going to make a hook. and curl it inwards towards that wire that I'm going to tuck it underneath. So you can see it's right there. It's curling inwards. I'm going to tuck it right in there. There. Now it's wrapping around that one piece of wire. So you kind of have to be creative with where you put your pieces of wire. And sometimes there's quite a large gap in between the stone and the end pieces. If that happens for you, it's a great opportunity to create a bit of a wave going across the edge of your stone. This doesn't have that issue on this pendant, but quite often I run into it where, because when you're pinching all of these 10 pieces of wire together, 5 from each side, quite often it's really hard to get it tight in there. When you have a sharp angle like this, like a point, it's easier to get them to line up with one another, but sometimes on a more round shape one, that can be challenging. So in that case, like I said, you can just take your wires and bring them around to the front to cover that gap. Like that. Now if you want to avoid getting too many wires going onto the back of the bracelet, remember that you still have the pendant that you can hook onto. So if you have a little hook like this right here, these wires can be cut off a little bit longer and hook down and around underneath this. So this is when the watch tools come in handy. So, no, those aren't right. You grab something like this, you can wedge yourself a little gap in between the stone and the wire to create a space for you to pull your wires through. Be really gentle to not overwork your wires when you're doing that. I hope that helps. There's samples of my finished pieces on my website, carlaswope.com, or you can also see pictures on Facebook. I have posts that I put up, and it might give you some new ideas on how to finish this off. You can use any of the techniques that you would use for a pendant for a necklace, that you can use those for a bracelet too. Be creative. Just remember that any of your loose wires will catch on something, especially with the bracelets. Waha. So just be extra mindful of that. And have lots of fun. Thanks for watching.